Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome to our first stream today. We are on the Long Island Railroad doing a 10-car service from Hicksville to New York Penn. This is my tribute to those who died 20 years ago today, September 11th. I hope everybody just comes in, relaxes. If you want to say something about somebody you may know who perished today, that's fine. I will not tolerate any sort of conversations about good morning pithers. I don't want to hear any blame. I don't want to hear any bigotry or whatever. Just come in and relax. Enjoy the stream. That's it. Okay, let's get underway here. Keys turned on. Back to forward. Break out of emergency. There we go. Let's get that door open so I can see across. Marker lights on. There we go. All right. This is all set. Doke. We should be departing here momentarily. Brakes are charged up. All right, Westbury is our next stop. We will be flying around New York later today at our usual time. We've got a small plane that can take off and land on water if we want to. So we are going to take off and then make our way into New York Harbor. Go past the Statue of Liberty, kind of cruise around the city a little bit, kind of spot some sights, and then we'll land the plane. See, I've got an extra viewer on Twitch. Welcome. Oh, did have a viewer on Twitch. Good morning, Bex. Good morning, Patrick. How are you both? How are you, pithers? If I didn't ask before, I apologize. Speed here. So we fly a little bit later this morning. I'll talk about where I was when everything happened in New York. Good, Patrick. Glad it's the weekend. How are you? I'm doing okay. Doing okay. Tried to have a little bit of sleep in this morning, but me being me, I was up at 5. I was trying to sleep in at least till 6, but yeah, that wasn't happening. So got up, made my coffee, and all that. kind of got some thoughts together about once we get flying, about making sure I got the plane pretty much set to go, all that. So should be a nice relaxing flight. Show some landmarks and such. Last night I was kind of tinkering around in Flight Sim. Kind of just looking around Germany. There's a couple of places I want to eventually so there's two castles. The one that I'd like to find, although the interesting thing is I found, like, in Heilbronn, I have to, there's very specific landmarks that are still there that I can find, that I know where I'm at, and I can use those to kind of trace other parts of Heilbronn. So the problem is that I did a kind of a cursory flight around Heilbronn the other day. And so I'm looking for this church that is downtown that, on the overhead photo map or whatever they use, when you're creating your flight, and you, it wasn't there when I flew. So I'm like, wait a minute, I know, okay, based on the way that the streets go, I know this is where it's supposed to be, but it was like, it wasn't showing up. So, but the castle in Heidelberg, I'd like to fly around that at some point, and just kind of go around Heidelberg, but there's another castle in Dortmund. It's called the Frankenstein Castle, which many people believe was the inspiration for Mary Shelley's Frankenstein story. It used to be that, and I'm sure it's going to come back now, that that's, they used to always have a big Halloween party there at that castle, at Frankenstein Castle. So I wanted to find that. I think I finally found it last night. I had to kind of use Google Maps in conjunction with what I was seeing on my television screen with the overhead sort of imagery in Flight Simulator. So I was able to find that castle. So I'd like to kind of fly around those at some point. Castles are, of course, the most famous was the new Schwanstein Castle. But yeah, the castles and the ruins even are a very interesting aspect of German history and all that. Good morning, Daniel. How are you? So we'd like to kind of I'd like to add that in at some point, kind of a flight tour sort of thing. I know the thing with those is it can be it can take quite a long time. So I don't know how well that's going to do. So I don't know. We'll see. trying to add some different things to the flight sim streams that hopefully will, taking off and landing is kind of, I think we've kind of got that down pat. I'm okay, Daniel. Thank you. I'm glad to hear you're okay. I imagine it's almost time for the fish and chip shop. Mineola is next. But I really wish we would get yeah, I figured as much. Wouldn't be too much longer before you made your way there. What was I saying? So yeah, what I'd like to do, I like to kind of do some of the flight, kind of an aerial tour sort of thing. I really wish we could do it in helicopters because it would be easier to kind of be a little bit slower. We could hover, and, that sort of thing maybe, but. But we'll find a small plane that we can go kind of slow and just kind of work our way around. Nick hasn't popped in, or he might be lurking. Half expected our we had that one person in yesterday on Twitch that was getting a little overexcited about signals and such when we were on the Oakville subdivision. Good morning, Mix. There he is. The man, the myth, the legend. Yeah, I kind of half expected that person to show back up today, but hopefully not. I'm not in the mood for anybody trying to fuss with me in my chat, so I do apologize if that got if anybody felt that got out of control, or Marylawn Avenue is next. So, Mick, I think I experienced some of the things that you've been talking about recently with Flight Sim. I had a complete, well, as complete as possibly can be, failure of air traffic control, lost all sound of air traffic control. Didn't matter if I rebooted my Xbox or not. It was just, I couldn't hear anything. Had a, what do you call it, my, I was flying from LAX to San Francisco in the Airbus 320. Could not hear ATC at all coming into San Francisco. Nearly crashed into another plane on approach. Had to go around. And even that was like a monumental mess. Just trying to get that done. Yeah, I don't really know. I'm hoping we don't have any kind of issues today while we're flying. I don't know if something happened last night that the ATC kind of went down or something. I don't, it was very strange. Like it went from normal voice to like a computerized, very kind of monotone sort of sound, and then it went back to normal, and then it cut out completely. So very weird. We're running a little bit late this morning on the service. As long as we're within a minute or so, I think we'll be okay. Okay, Mick. That'll work. I appreciate that. Hoping that person kind of New Hyde Park is next. Got the message yesterday that I don't mind audience interaction at all. What I don't want is audience coming in and making demands that I am not going to. Like if somebody just says, "Hey, can we hear the horn on the M7?" I don't mind. Did you try look? I did, Mick, and I didn't see that at all. I didn't experience that. So that's a very kind of a weird sort of situation. It seems that's happening for you, but I have not seen that before. So, but anyway, yeah, I'm hoping, like, if somebody's not heard the horn on the M7, which I find hard to believe first off, because there's plenty of people who've played this route, driven this route. I'm sure you could even find real life video of the M7 coming into a station with the horn and everything. But I don't mind. Like I can do that very quickly. But yeah, I'm not going to tolerate anything beyond that. I'm not going to do the horn codes and such. So if that's what people are expecting, as far as what they consider audience interaction, then they're going to be sorely disappointed. So, wow, we nailed that stuff. Look at that. But yeah, I'm hoping that person doesn't come back. Yeah, at the lights, you mean? Or the ATC just kind of completely turning off, and you don't hear, and it's like you only hear your part of the conversation with air traffic control, or you have to acknowledge the instructions. Jamaica is next. Oh, yeah, the lights, I've heard some people say that they've had that problem. I've not seen it personally happen to me, but the ATC, that was the first time, like, it stuttered, and then it said, oh, the voices aren't available, so it went to this, like, computerized monotone sort of thing, and then it became, what do you call it, and then it just shut off completely. Like, I couldn't hear them talk at all. So I tried rebooting, couldn't get things to work. It was just, so I'm hoping whatever happened overnight, maybe they took that server down or something. I don't know. It's very strange. So I'm hoping, yeah, we don't have any issues like that today when we fly around New York. Alright. We have Jamaica. Oops. Then we have Kew Gardens, Forest Hills, Woodside, New York Penn. Wrap this up, and then we'll be back at 9 for Flight Sim. I'll be honest, I couldn't imagine being, I mean, I think once the towers were hit, like if you were coming into the city from, you know, if you were essentially on your way to work that day, I mean, could you imagine seeing that, the smoke and everything coming from downtown as you're coming in on the train or the ferry, for instance? I mean, that must have just been a really well, incredible in one way, but also just gut-wrenching sort of thing to see as you're, you know, think, oh, I'm on my way to work, and something like that happens. And, you know, certainly cell phone technology was still in its infancy. Not everybody had a cell phone back then. Only maybe like doctors and lawyers and people that had the ability to afford, because there was no 4G or 3G. It was still infancy technology, and what was there, the networking for cell phone technology back then must have been overloaded when people were trying to call and make sure that if you were on your way to New York that day, to call and say, hey, I'm all right. I would have imagined it would have taken quite some time for people to be able to reach family members to say, hey, I wasn't, I'm okay. I remember hearing a story. A young lady was in New York on September 11th, and her dad is a pastor, and he talked about how it took seemingly forever for him to hear from her, and once they did, they were relieved, because they thought for sure she had died, because they couldn't figure out where she was. And then so the story goes that she came back to California and was visiting her mom and dad, and decided one night that she was going to go out with her friends, and her dad was a bit upset with her, because it was almost like she had just gotten there, and she just said, oh, I'm going to go out. And it broke his heart in a way, because he thought she had died. And she basically said, I didn't quite grasp what my dad was trying to say when he was, the look in his eyes, that he was sad that I would rather go out with my friends than be there with my family. And she, of course, it took a while for her to understand the pain that he had endured, not knowing if she was alive or dead. And so she said, I finally came to terms with that, but I didn't know it at the time, how that lack of communication had affected him. Not knowing if I was dead or alive. Okay, Daniel. Well, we should probably be here by the time you get back. We're not ending any time. We still got a few more stops, so you got time. But I think that's the one of the most interesting underlying themes about this day 20 years ago was communication. When I was on the other side of the country in California in the Peace 2. I was in the National Guard at the time, which is, I think it would be like your territorial army, but I'm guessing you guys have like a reserve sort of organization for your military, where you go like 1 week in a month, and then you do a few weeks of training at some point during the year or something. And that's what we were doing. We were doing our 2-week annual, what we call annual training. And when the attack happened, and we didn't know, well, because everything we were hearing it seemed kind of like things had already happened. We were just hearing word about it. And it was a very sort of crazy situation, because there were so many questions that we didn't know the answers to. And I think that's one of the things that when it happened and we shut the shop an hour later for the rest of the day. So yeah, we didn't, and what I also remember, as we talk about this again when we go flying, is that it was, you were trying to sift through all the information, what information you were getting, and sometimes in a rush to understand what's going on, or to kind of get a grasp and start piecing together with what you're hearing, you have people who feel it necessary. Hello, Mel. No, he's just now leaving to go to the chip shop. You have people that start to decide what information you need to know, and sometimes that's not always a good thing. So there became a sense of we have to control, because back then, when we were out in the field and somebody had a little AM radio, and that's how we found out what was going on. Then it became, okay, who's got radios out here that probably don't, is that even something that should be out there, in the field, sort of thing, and because then people would, I think, be distracted, or they thought that that's what would be the outcome, is that people would be distracted. They wouldn't want to do any more training. It was like, I wanted to listen to the radio and find out what's going on in the country. And I will say, and because when this happened, I was in my 30s, and I think I can count on my hand, at least one hand, how many times I think I've legitly been scared in my life. One was when I was outside Kuwait City, when the oil fire smoke had completely, you couldn't see anything. You couldn't see the stars, you couldn't see the moon, you couldn't see 2 inches in front of your face, basically. One other time was when 9/11 happened, and the look that the look on people's eyes, it wasn't a sense of people were afraid that, where was the next attack going to happen? What was going to happen next? It wasn't that. It was the look of, how can I describe it? It was almost that sense of, we're going to war, and I am going to get something out of this. Because we hadn't, 1991, the Gulf War, we had some military skirmishes after that, but it wasn't, we hadn't been in a long, protracted war, at least since Vietnam. And so people started to put in their mind that the conflict would lead to, I guess in a way, like fame. Like, oh, all these awards and promotions and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't. It was a very scary look that I remember seeing on people's faces at that moment. That they weren't thinking about, okay, I have to take care of my soldiers, I have to keep them informed, I have to make sure that they're okay. No, it was like, it became for a lot of people, it became a very selfish moment. It was like, okay, now I can prove myself on the field of battle. And it worried me. I still think about that to this day, that, you know, if it was any normal job where I could have quit, I think I should have. Not that I, you know, regret my military service or anything, but when I saw that look, I knew that this, you know, people were not going to conduct themselves in a way that was honorable, if that makes sense. And, you know, I think 20 years of conflict have brought things out in people that is not, their behavior was not healthy, their mentality was not very healthy. You know, our veterans resources was not, I don't think could have ever been prepared for 20 years of conflict. I still think, even with the lessons they should have learned or said that they learned, I don't think they've not really learned those lessons in mental health sort of things for veterans and whatnot. But that moment, I think that's when for all intents and purposes, that's where the mental health sort of breakdown happened. Was within the hours after, you know, once more news and people started to piece together that we were very likely going to go to war, that the mental gymnastics that were happening in people's minds to say, oh, well, I'm going to get something out of this, and I don't care who I step on to get it, or I don't care what I do to get it. I think that's still the thing that worries me the most all these years later. And yeah, if I could have set down my rifle and taken off my equipment and walked off, I think I probably would have, although, you know, part of me would have been gutted to do so. And I think, you know, if I was 18 or 19 at that point, I wouldn't have picked up on that sort of behavior, that sort of mental, you know, picture, I don't want to say picture, but the picking up on people's unspoken sort of mindset, I guess. Because, you know, you're not very aware of those things when you're a lot younger. But when you've matured a bit, you start to pick up on those things, and it becomes very troubling in a way. And the sad part is, I think people got used to that sort of mentality. They were okay with it. And I think it cost, there's a humanity part of the equation that I think it cost people it started to cost people slices of their humanity. Ooh, got that looping sound. Which was not good. And I think that's kind of slowly declined over the past 20 years. If that makes sense. And I don't mean to get all psychological or whatever, but it's just my observations of that day. You know, because I didn't see excuse me, I don't think we saw pictures of what happened until like a day or two later when we finally got a hold of newspapers. You know, hearing it being described on the radio is one thing. You know, seeing it on television or seeing the photos is way different, I think. But again, I think too that when you finally got that visual sort of comprehension of what had happened, it only reinforced, I think, the mentality that had already started to develop in people's minds about what was getting ready to happen and what role were they going to play in it and what were they going to get out of it. So there we are. There's my thoughts. Alright, almost, we're on our way to NY Penn. Thank you. Thank you very much, Anella. If I remember correctly, just past that 60 is a 30. If I remember correctly. Yeah, because I think we go over a switch. Let's see if I remember correctly or not. I think we will. Yep, there it is. I was right. There's been times I come flying in there and I'm like going almost 50, 60 miles an hour, and so I lose points because I'm speeding, so there we are. Alright, so it'll probably be about an hour and a half or so. So we've got 7:15 now, so probably by the time we end up, it'll probably be close to 7:30, so it'll be about an hour and a half between the end of this stream and our flight around New York. Looking forward to that. What took you so long? I'm back. Well, welcome back, Daniel. You're here just as we get ready to make our way into New York Penn. And we'll wrap up this stream. But we will be flying later. Plus you just missed all my you just missed my rambling there, Daniel. Oh, look, we can ride in the tunnels again. I'm guessing the shop was a little busy there, Daniel? Sounds like another train just went by on the other side there. Yep. You could hear it through the wall. That's kind of weird. I would think this would be very thickly constructed stonework. So I'm not sure how in the world we just heard that train passing the other way. Oops. Oh. That's good. Always helps when we can get there at the right time and you don't have to wait in line for too long. Definitely should be here on time, or early here at New York Penn. Pick up some points for that. Although this is one of those very long, sort of dragged out situations where where it seems like it takes forever to get to our stop point down there. I can imagine if a driver blew the horn in the station here, it must just make people jump out of their skin. There we are. We're early. And we hit our mark. Oh, this is the other side, I guess. I never, like, I would think it's this side, because this seems, it doesn't have, like, look at that. That doesn't seem very, I don't know. Something doesn't seem right about that. And then this thing's got way much more of a gap here. All right. Well, there we are. Okay. Well, that's that. All right. Mel ain't happy because the fridge is empty. Anyway, that's going to be it for right now. I will see you all in about an hour and a half. Microsoft Flight Simulator. Nice little flight around New York City. And we'll land, and that will be it for today. All right, I'll see